welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Courtney, and I always start by saying thank you so very much to my new and returning viewers for clicking on this video and spending some time with me today. Every Tuesday I upload a new true crime discussion video, so if that's something you're into, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a thing. I want to start by saying thank you so much to you guys for understanding how I took last week off. I know I literally just said that every Tuesday I upload new videos, and I normally do. But yes, last week was just like a whirlwind. I've never traveled so much in my life. Between hospital visits, like I mentioned, my grandpa was having heart surgery. Took him 2.5 hours up north and then brought him back home the next day. So it was just like travel. And then we randomly decided on a whim to drive to Tennessee to pick up a new puppy. So I have been in the car the last week so much. I am so happy to be home and resting and back to the grind. Alright guys, this case, as you all know, I have to censor here on YouTube, but this one I'm gonna have to censor it a little more because it is about, how can I say this without getting in trouble? It is about human consumption. I'm sure you guys know what I'm getting at, so let's get started. We are talking about Issei Sagawa. This is going to be rough, okay, so just here we go. Issei was born on April 26, 1949, and he grew up in a very super wealthy family. His father was a businessman and a president at Kurita Water Industries, and his grandfather was an editor for a super popular Japanese newspaper. His mother was a stay-at-home mom, and I mean, everything was great. The only issue was that when Issei's mother was pregnant with him, she almost miscarried. So Issei was born prematurely, and it was reported that he was so tiny that he could fit in the palm of his father's hand. So obviously this is going to cause some problems throughout your life if you're born that prematurely. Issei immediately developed enteritis, which is a disease of the small intestine, and he did eventually recover because the hospital gave him several injections of potassium and calcium. But his entire life he stayed very small and frail and sickly looking. So this made him develop a lot of self-confidence issues, and he was extremely introverted. Throughout school though, he did find a love for literature, and he said he loved literature so much because he felt like in the moment of whatever he was reading or writing, he felt like he could escape the world that he was living in, where he was very small and sickly and frail and self-conscious and all of that, and he could temporarily be into this fictional world of what he was reading or writing about. Issei eventually attended Waco University, and he completed a master's degree in English literature at, guys, this is a Japanese school. I don't know how to say this, but this is the school that he attended where he got a master's degree in English literature. So Issei is very, very smart. However, Issei did state in a later interview that he knew by the time he was in like first grade that there was something wrong with him, like mentally. So he recalls looking at another classmate and thinking that they had a really tasty looking thigh. And this is in first grade. So I guess he never told anybody about these weird thoughts that he was having. He did have an appointment with a psychologist, but he ended up just never going. So when attending Waco University, Issei met a German woman that he thought was just absolutely stunning. So instead of introducing himself and saying like, "Hi, my name is Issei, you are very beautiful, I would like to take you out," he just follows her home one night, and he sits outside and he waits for her lights to go out, and then he breaks into her home. He's watching her sleep, which is just the creepiest thing to me, that whenever you close your eyes, like, I want to feel safe and know I'm just going to drift off into dreamland and I'm going to fall asleep and I'm going to wake up and everything's fine. The thought of somebody watching me when I sleep, ooh. So anyway, he's watching her sleep, right? And he wanted to knock her unconscious and grab a slice of that booty before she woke up. Late night takeout. I'm sorry. It's not funny. It's so odd. So somehow, thankfully, he did end up waking her up before he could carry out this plan of his, and she took his ass to the ground and called police. Police arrested him and charged him with attempted rape. And of course, he did not tell police the real reason that he was there. Issei's very rich daddy comes to rescue and pays this German woman off, so all of the charges were dropped. So now it is 1977, Issei is now 27 years old, and he moved to France to pursue a PhD in literature at the Sorbonne in Paris. And that's what is so damn frustrating about this case. One of the frustrating things is that Issei was obviously very, very smart, and he could have went on to do incredible things in his field. And he chose this route instead, and it's so frustrating to me. Issei said that while he was living in Paris, quote, almost every night I would bring a worker home and try to shoot him, but for some reason my fingers froze up and I just couldn't pull the trigger. Thank God. So now it is June 11th, 1981. Issei is now 32, and he invited one of his fellow classmates. Her name was Renee Hartevelt. She was a Dutch woman, and he really, really liked her. He thought that she was absolutely beautiful, and he invited her to his apartment for dinner. So, like, he confesses the way he feels about her, and Renee lets him know that she really just sees him as a friend. She really enjoys his presence because they are both very, very smart people. They share some of the same interests. I'm sure not all of the same interests, you know what I'm saying? But she really enjoyed his company. So Issei invites her over to his apartment for dinner, and he wanted her to help him with his German literature. He said, I have a very rich father. He can pay you for your time. I really just need some tutoring. And she's like, yeah, absolutely. I will come over. We'll hang out. We'll have dinner, and I will help you study. So of course Renee did not have any idea what Issei's true intentions were, but Issei planned to kill and consume her, and he selected her because he thought she was absolutely beautiful. She was very healthy. She was 5'10", very healthy woman, very beautiful woman. And Issei saw himself as weak, ugly, and small. This is a quote. This is not me saying it. He saw himself as weak, ugly, and small. So he was only 4'9", and he thought that by consuming Renee that he would absorb all of the characteristics that she had that he lacked. Just like take some vitamins or something, damn. So when Renee gets to Issei's apartment, she's reading a German poem when Issei comes up behind her and shoots her in the neck, and unfortunately she was gone before she hit the ground. Issei immediately passes out from the shock of like, holy shit, I actually just did this. So he faints, and he wakes up and he's like, okay, pull yourself together. We have a plan to carry out. So let me try to filter this. He started by having relations with Renee's body, and then he tries to consume her, but his teeth are not sharp enough. So he goes out and he buys an electric carving knife, and he gets her down into smaller pieces, and he consumes some of her raw. He tries cooking some of it, and then he puts the rest in a freezer. And he also took photos of all of this while, you know, in like different stages. I do not recommend trying to find these photos. I really don't. So after a couple days, he realizes that he needs to get rid of the body. So he puts what's left into 2 separate suitcases. My neighbor just started up a chainsaw. Oh my gosh, do you have to do this right now? Anyway, he puts what's left into 2 separate suitcases. And remember, Issei is very, very tiny, 4'9", super skinny, very frail. Issei gets a taxi, and the taxi driver sees Issei struggling with these 2 suitcases. So of course he gets out to help him. And yeah, they are heavy. So the taxi driver makes the joke, what do you got in here, a body? Which, I mean, of course it was a joke. I've said something like that before. Like, you pick something up like, oh my gosh, what do you got in here, a body? But can you imagine being that taxi driver and then finding out what actually happened? Finding out that the tiny man with a super heavy suitcase really was carrying a body. Anyway, Issei's plan was to dump the suitcases in a lake, which was in a super populated public park. So not a great idea, but thankfully this is the route that he chose. So when he got there, again, everybody is noticing this tiny man struggling with 2 super heavy suitcases, and he looked a little suspicious, especially when he decided, like, I'm done struggling with this, I'm over it. So he just leaves the suitcases where they are and runs off. So an older couple sees this happen, and they're like, little suspicious. So they call police, and when police arrive and see what was in those suitcases, they're like, okay, we've got a situation on our hands. People all over this big public park were able to very easily give descriptions of this very tiny Japanese man, said what he looked like, and then they were able to track down the taxi driver because somebody saw him get out of a taxi. So police tracked down the taxi driver, and the taxi driver was like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. This is where I picked him up at. So that led police to his apartment. So it only took 4 days when police arrived at Issei's apartment and arrested him. But once again, Daddy comes in to save the day, and he hires a very, very good defense lawyer. After 2 years, Issei is being held awaiting for trial, and he was found to be legally insane and unfit to stand trial by the French judge, because remember, this happened in Paris. This judge ordered Issei to be in a mental institution for the rest of his life, but then French authorities deported Issei back to Japan, where he was immediately admitted into a mental hospital. The psychologist there said he was sane. Then French court documents were sealed and not given to Japanese authorities, so legally Issei cannot be held in Japan. So on August 12th, 1986, Issei checked himself out of this mental hospital, and he's been a free man ever since. Issei has written books, he's appeared in interviews and short films, and the most disgusting part is that Issei was on a cooking show. What in the actual... In 2013, though, Issei was hospitalized from a cerebral infarction, which permanently damaged his nervous system. So now he lives alone, he's in a wheelchair, and he needs constant care, which is either taken care of by other, like, professional caregivers or his younger siblings. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of Issei Sagawa. He took the life of an innocent, beautiful, smart young woman, and then he did some really messed up things, and he's a free man. I want to know your thoughts. I'm sure your thoughts are no different than mine, but I still want to know what you think down in the comments. Please don't forget to share this channel, subscribe, hit the like button. All of that stuff helps me out so much. You guys stay safe, and I will see you next week. Bye!